After the discovery of advanced rot caused by hidden water penetrations, we've come to the conclusion that we gotta rip the roof off this car. We have to inspect the damage, we have to treat compromised structure, we have to remove any remaining rust, and we have to treat the metal so that this never happens again. And even though this is 72 Nova, the principles, fundamentals, and techniques translate to most vehicles. So knowing something like this, knowing the skills, can be very valuable. And the best part about it is I've never done this before, much like other projects done on this car. Now in this show, I never claimed to be an expert. The whole idea of this is to really do my own research, spend the time to look up the techniques, all the tools and everything, do the job and show somebody what it'd be like for the first time. So you don't have to spend all that time doing research, you know, watching thousands of videos and whatnot. This is a first for me, so if I can do it, most people can as well. My name is Trooper Max, and I'm restoring a car that's been off the road since 1977. But I've never done this before. I've taken the time to do my research, and I'm building the car of my dreams, hoping to inspire others to do the same. So work on the 72 Nova is well underway. Previously we had worked on the floor pans, cutting out the old rusty ones and putting in some new patches. And at the same time we did some work on the bumpers, did some fender work, so the job is coming along nicely. But now comes the big part. It's time to rip the roof off this car. And at first glance, you look at this, it looks really good. And when this car was all complete, it was really hard to detect. And I wasn't able to see the rust damage because with all the trim on and with the interior on, you just cannot see the damage. And this is the problem with old cars. But even after removing the interior and seeing some of the damage, it's still really hard to know exactly the condition of the inner structure, and the inner structure will continue to rust if we don't treat this. So we have to deal with it, and we have to rip the roof off. A lot of these cars that have been sitting around for a long time with the full interior will actually start rusting from the inside out, and you won't even see it happening. That's exactly what happened here. So that's what we have to do. We do have to take this thing off, and we will not be able to put this roof back on. So no, we're not recycling this roof as I had originally hoped. We're gonna be putting on a brand new one. So we're going to be using a grinder with a cutoff wheel to cut this off, but prior to doing any cutting, you have to understand the construction of this so we don't damage anything. So first of all, this roof skin here, it's put on as one piece and it ends about here. Right over here there's a lead joint, and on the back there's another lead joint. So that's where they're actually connected. We're going to be heating those up later and cutting those off. But for now, what we want to do is just want to cut this. You have two pieces of metal, they're sandwiched together using a technique known as spot welding. Spot welds hold it together, and we're actually going to have to delaminate this. But before we do that, we're just going to cut through here. And for the sides here, it's pretty much the same thing, except the spot welds are tucked inside the drip rail here. I'm not going to touch those right now. All I'm going to do is cut here just so I can remove this roof. And the inner structure is very close, so we just got to just ever so slightly cut it just so we can remove this thing. And on the back window, it's the same deal as the front. So we've done the majority of cutting. All we got left is this sail here. This area is called the sail, and we have to talk about the construction of how this is put together. Basically, you got your roof skin. Your roof skin goes down to about here-ish, and then this bottom part here goes all the way down. This is the quarter panel, so this is where it's joined. And unlike other places where it's just welded together, there's actually a lead joint here. So what we gotta do is gotta melt the lead joint. We gotta do that safely. And we have to basically heat it up and then take it off with a wire brush. Now you can't sand this with like a grinder. Like you can remove the paint, which is what we're gonna do. We're gonna remove as much as we can, but you can't just sand it with a regular, sanding disc. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna expose this and we're gonna start taking out the lead. Oh, one more thing. So earlier on, I was wearing a mask when I was cutting because there are some areas where there's lead. I do not want those particles in the air going into my body, so that's why I was wearing this. Now, for this part over here, I'm gonna take it up to the next level. I'm gonna use a full face mask. This might be overkill, but it's better to be safe, and at the same time, this doesn't fog up, but that's the best part about it. That's what I like. So we're gonna be wearing this because we do not want that lead. We don't wanna be breathing that in. That's bad stuff. For stripping this area, we're gonna be using our SCT, that's our surface conditioning tool. This is gonna make quick work of this job. It's gonna remove all the paint, primer, and body filler in a pinch. So this is our stripping drum. It's a 40 grit instead of the 120 that we've been using. That one's more of a finishing drum, but for removing paint, it goes pretty quickly. Now, this is much more aggressive, so we're gonna be using this. Let's see how it goes. what we got to do next is melt it. And the way we're going to do that is by using this torch, and we're going to use a wire brush. Just heat it up and slowly start flaking it off. That's exactly what we're going to do. But we're going to use the proper protection for this.
What the hell is it? What the hell? I don't see any fucking lead.
I'm not sure. I don't know where the lead is. I've never done this before. Let's try to find it. I'm going to strip higher.
That looks like lead.
Ugh. I'm a freaking idiot. It's up here. It's not down there. I just did that for nothing. But that's what happens when you do this for the first time. Pretty sure that's it right here. That looks like lead to me. Pretty sure. All right, let's check. Lead is a lot softer. Yeah, that's it right there. Oh yeah, that's lead right there. Okay, so it's up here. It's not down there. Oh, let's do this again. All right, so we've removed our lead, and would you look at that? Check it out. We see our joint. That's a monster channel. Imagine welding that. That would take like 17 years. So if people wondering why they use lead, this is why. It'd be so much easier. Roof skin's also in pretty good shape. And a lot of people be like, well, why don't you just, you know, take it off, fix your stuff, and put it back on? The problem is the front and back is just gone. There's nothing left. If I were to manufacture that on this, it would take forever. I would never get it right, so that's why I'm doing it. It's because of the window channel and not so much the roof itself. The roof is in good shape. Kind of sucks to have to get rid of it. But let's talk about this now. So we got our spot welds. What we got to do is we got to disassemble this. And the way you do it is you find your spot weld, you take a drill and just do a little pilot hole. That's about it. Don't need much. And we are going to drill it out using this. So this is the Blair spot weld cutter kit. This little piece basically goes where the weld is. You put it on, you put in your drill. And it's just a matter of drilling it out, really. You just have to know when to stop. The idea is you don't want to go through both panels. If you do that, you'll be in trouble. You just want to go through this. It's a spring-loaded bit here, basically. What happens is it stops once you push, so it shouldn't go all the way through. This may take a few tries. You do not want to rush this. You do not want to puncture the bottom part. There we go, boom. You hear that? It clicked through, and we still have our metal behind from the quarter panel. So that's good, success. You know, sometimes you feel like a clunk, not always, so you gotta be careful, but now it's just a matter of drilling all these out, removing our spot welds, and then we get on to the next part of this. All right, so we've drilled all our welds, and check out what we found. Look at all this rust forming right where our welds are. Unbelievable. See, this is where the cancer spreads, and this is what you don't see. So this is the importance of really taking it down to absolutely nothing and starting from scratch, because that's what's happening inside. There's water been getting in, and it's getting damaged, and if we don't treat it, it's just gonna continue. So this is why we're ripping the roof off. I know it's a hell of a lot of work, but that's what this project's all about. So next thing we're gonna do is we gotta rip this out now. This already moves a little bit, not freely, but it's already starting to move. What you wanna do now is separate it. And the best way to do that is using this guy right over here. This is loud, so I'm putting these in. Check it out, air hammer. This bad boy is gonna help us remove these welds in a very timely fashion. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's just remove these bad boys. All you do is you go underneath. You gotta be careful because I don't want to damage the quarter panel. Just a matter of separating the metal. There's a bit of weld there, so it's not gonna go up. All right, so the roof has been, for the most part, disconnected. We're gonna be taking off in a few minutes, but before we do that, there's a few things I wanna do. I wanna talk about this Blair spot weld cutter. I just changed this tip. I've been using it for the past couple months. We end up doing our floor pans with this as well. Some of you might be asking, oh, is it overseas? And that's just, no, Dale, damn it, this is made right here in the United States of America. Even though I'm not in the United States, I'm in Canada, but you get the point. So it's a domestic item, it's pretty good. Blair spot weld cutter, very good. So before I remove this thing, what I want to do is actually put the new roof on just to see how it fits, where it lands, because it's not going to fit this well again. All right, let's put the new baseball cap on. Me likey. That actually looks pretty cool. Not that the other one looked bad. Alrighty, so I'll tell you the reason why I did that. The reason I did this is because there's a lead joint here. And in some cars, in some cases, I've seen people not melt it at all, but just rather cut it and put it in. However, this one, it looks like it's got a bottom edge, so it really needs to be melted, spot welds taken out. So we will, after this roof is off, I'll take that up and clean it up. And in the back, it's kind of the same thing. Some of the newer style replacement panels don't actually have this lip here. They're just flat, so they can just kind of sit on top. But I can see here, it's pretty much exactly the way it was made back in the day. So yes, we will need a lead joint, and we're gonna make it back to how it's supposed to be factory. All right, folks, this is it. This is the moment. It's time to take this roof off. Haven't done yet, so I have no idea what's under there. And I'm nervous as hell, to be completely honest with you. Can't believe I'm ripping this thing off, but we've gone too far now. I'm gonna channel my inner Triple H. I know it's totally unnecessary, but let me have my fun. Okay, I guess we just gotta do more hammer. That's too bad, eh? What a shame, eh? I think she's off now. There's only so much we could fix, right? Let's see. Oh. Yeah, there's some pretty bad areas in there, but you know what? Oh, the front's really bad, but you know what? The rest of it's not terrible. That's gross.
Hey, it's a convertible.
Yay, soft top. Let's do it. Oh, I can fix this. Yeah, I can fix that. Oh, it stinks like mice. I know that smell. You know what they say, it's all about the game and how you play it. Tenacious. All right, now we can really take a good look here at the condition of this. Overall, it's not bad. Yes, here it's really rough. This area here is not toast, but it's pretty bad. But it's fixable. It's all fixable. There's definitely going to be some manufacturing here done. But I'm really happy about this. Sometimes these guys on the side, they're just tons of holes, all destroyed. This is pretty good. Back there, the quarter panel, yeah, this was a bad area. The quarter panel is pretty rotted here, but there's no reason we can't fix that. This is pretty bad here, but all fixable. Yeah, but look at this, I had my second holy shih tzu moment when I saw the rust as I was trying to push that thing up. Yeah, it's something, but you know what? I'm more excited about now than scared of it. See, this is the rot you don't see from the outside, and this is exactly why we're doing this. And then we have the roof scan itself, and the condition of it is not too bad. But what you could see is here, check it out. You could see all this moisture here on this paper layer they've put on, and this hasn't been exposed to water in a very long time, but yet it's wet, right? Check it out. So this is what we weren't able to remove from the inside, and this is the biggest problem. This is just holding moisture, right? So it is slowly rotting away. It's not in terrible shape. I've seen much worse than this, but it's not, we don't want this. So this is a problem. So the new one will not have anything like this. So overall, I'm very pleased. I feel like this is something I can tackle, even though it's not something I've done before. I'm gonna figure it out. What I'm gonna do now is just clean it up, find a way to remove this channel from in here, get all these, and then we're gonna start rebuilding this thing. So you can see us, we were working on the drip rail here. We were just trying to get this ready because the piece of metal is still in there. So we're just trying to remove as much of the seam sealer as we can and then slowly work on the drip rail itself. Now, no matter how hard I worked here with the grinder, I just couldn't get this piece of metal to come out. So at the end, what I ended up doing is actually grinding it down as flat as possible, and I kept the rest of the metal in. And I know a lot of people are gonna say, no, you shouldn't do that, you know, the roof's not gonna sit flat. Well, that's always a possibility, but I figured I'd take a risk. If on the front and on the back I do the same thing, I figure in my mind I should make it work. I could always fabricate the metal and manipulate it to fit the space. In terms of the front, where the spot welds are, this was a really difficult area. It was extremely difficult to get rid of these, so I was using a spot weld cutter, and as I was going through the spot welds, it was becoming more and more difficult. So I ended up switching to the grinder, and the grinder just really butchered things. It does work, but really it's not the right way of doing it. We treated the other side exactly the same way, and then we moved on to the back. Turns out my spot weld cutter was dull, so I had to change it. Once I changed the bit, it was a completely different game. Folks, I'm telling you, use the spot weld cutter. It's just so much easier. And here on the back, you could see I really got into the rhythm things. I was using the spot weld cutter, and at the same time, I was sanding as much as I could to reveal the spot welds, and it just went so much quicker. So this is definitely the way you want to go. It just turned out looking much better in the back than the front because I didn't really have to use the grinder very much. All right, we've removed everything we need off this roof, and now it's ready to go in terms of making a plan. It's in pretty decent shape. It's not as bad as I thought. The good news is the rear channel and the front channel are actually both intact. They're not completely rotted away. But had this thing sat any longer, it would have rotted away, but they're still nice and silver. That means these could be saved, so I don't have to produce any channels. So in terms of putting the roof on, all the channels I need to have, they're all intact, which is great. That makes it really easy. Where the problem is this area over here. There's a lot of damage over here, structurally inside as well. So we're gonna have to produce a couple parts to put them in here. And then the actual channel for the window on the sides here off the sails, they've also been compromised, so they have to be fixed. But in terms of the roof, it's all really good. Now, we are gonna be adding a little bit of metal to reinforce it because although the metal is in decent shape, it has been fatigued a bit, so we're just gonna reinforce it just a little bit so there's no movement whatsoever. We're gonna do that, we're gonna fix this, and in the front we cut out some of the cancers, so we're gonna be fixing the front as well. Before we do any building, we're actually gonna sand it down and treat the rust, at least on the top, because we're gonna be laminating some metal on here, and I just wanna get it to the point where it's all ready to go. I'm going to talk about the product we're going to be using, and the product requires 24 to 48 hours to use, so let's get this done so we can put that on, and that could be curing as we're doing other stuff. So we're always trying to be kind of one step of the game, you know, always trying to be efficient. So usually I would rebuild first, do all my welding, cutting, that kind of stuff, and then do the rest stuff, but this time I'm doing the other way around just because I want to be efficient with my time. Now in terms of sanding tools for this, a lot of people will say just, you know, grab the sandblaster and do that. That's definitely an option, but the thing is, that's not an option for a lot of people. Myself, I just don't have the best compressor in the world, so it's not really my ideal way of doing things. And at the same time, there is rust inside this. You gotta kind of treat this like a frame, because the frame, you can't sand the inside of it. You could treat it as much as you can, but there is already some rust. So the thing is, I just want to take as much rust off as I can, and based on the product that we're going to be using afterwards to treat the rust, it doesn't have to be perfect at all. I'm going to show you that thing later because that product is awesome. But combination of sand tools, what we're going to be doing, first of all, is we're going to be using our SCT. I know this is not the ideal tool for this, but if it's a big surface area, I'll run it because it's the most powerful one and it's so quick. It's electric, it's not super loud. You know, the pneumatic ones are really loud, so this is pretty much the way to go for me. At the same time, if I'm touching anything up, I always use a wire brush. I know this is the slow and painful way, it takes forever, and it's definitely the least effective, but it works. You can get a lot of different areas, and it's almost like therapeutic for me, you know? I don't mind doing this, it doesn't bother me at all, so that's another option. And then the third option is this one over here. This is a 90-degree die grinder. This is an awesome tool because it has this stripping disc on it, and this stripping disc is pretty much the same thing that's on the SCT, except this one works a little bit differently. It's smaller and get more areas, so basically it's having a really small SCT in terms of that. And this is a really effective tool. You saw us using this earlier on. We were using it on all the spot welds and everything, so this is a great tool. The combination of these three tools will make this job fly. So let's get started. First of all, I'll just show you how this tool works, since we have a clean slate here and we haven't really demonstrated it. It's pretty simple. So you can see that's very effective. That really made, this is seconds, and that made short work of it. And you can see how nice and silver it is. And then the next thing we usually just clean up with this. It's the same effect pretty much. And then finally we got the SCT, which seems like absolute overkill. And this is used more for body work, but you could use it out here too. Like, look how effective that is. I already did double the area of there in just a couple seconds. So people say SCT is not for this. Sure as hell works for me. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna run through the whole job. We're gonna use a combination of different tools that we have available to us, strip as much rust, and then we'll get to the next part. So we've concluded our rust removal and we're extremely pleased with the results. It's hard to believe this was covered in rust just hours ago. The combination of tools worked really well and really removed the vast majority of the rust. However, as we slowly make our way to the front, you'll see it's a bit of a different story. There were some areas we weren't able to get to, and maybe we could access with a sandblaster, but at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter, because if you look inside the inner structure, it's just covered in rust. So this is going to be treated in a completely different way. At the end of the day, this is going to be like a 90% finish, so that's what we're going to do. But let's talk about some stuff that really helped along the way. So one of the things that helped was this air belt sander. This little guy was really able to get into small areas. You can really concentrate your sanding to a smaller area, and it does a really good job. So that was a great tool to have. And the second tool was to have a grinder with a flap disc. This combination of grinder and flap disc worked really well. Using a grinding stone was really crude, so this really concentrates your sanding to an area, and it's much finer, smoother area. Plus, you don't want to use this too much because sparks mean metal coming off, and we don't want to remove any metal, so we just have to fix the welds. And then, of course, next thing I have to do is actually treat this, because now it's time to take care of the rust itself. And some of you might be saying, well, there's some areas, we really could have sandblasted and done a better job. We could, but sometimes it's better to work smarter than harder. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use chemistry to help us out. What we're gonna do is we're using this. This is called Ospho. We've used it before. We used it in our floor pans and it did a really good job. It's an acid basically. What it does is it prepares for painting. So it converts rust into a paintable surface. It almost creates like an etching primer, and then you can paint over it. And a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, that's a gimmick, You wanna remove the rust as much as you can. It's true, and that's what we did. However, there's some areas that you just can't, you can't fix, unfortunately, so you do the best you can, but this does a really good job. And when you finish with this, it hardens. It becomes so difficult. It's so hard to remove this stuff that it's a great surface for priming, and it just seals in your car. Basically, if we did all this work, if we just leave this, it's gonna rust again. So we gotta seal it before it flash rusts. We're gonna do this, and you can leave it for months afterwards without painting it, and it won't come through. So that's the great thing about this. So we're gonna use this, we're gonna put on some personal protective wear because this is dangerous stuff, and I'll show you what we're gonna be doing. Now I understand we're using a lot of products in this video, but don't worry, I got all the links in the description below so you can find those as well. Alright, so we're all geared up here. We got our Ospho, and what we're also going to be using is two other things. So Ospho actually also removes rust, not just converts it. So we're able to scrub it away. So we're going to be scrubbing it in areas we can reach with just a wire brush. That's going to help out. And then we got these two different grit Scotch Brite pads. These scuff pads are used to remove the rust, and based on how coarse it is, you could pick two different types, and we're just going to use a combination of both. I find I use both, so that's what I'm going to do. First thing I want to do is take a container and fill it with our product. And you don't want this to go on like concrete or something like that. It'll make a huge mess. So try not to spill it. Okay, so this is what we do. We take our rag and you just dip it. And we just start applying it. Now, the idea here is not to soak this completely. You just get it wet, and then you take one of your pads and you start working away the rust. The black, it's almost like deep rust. You're not going to be able to remove it all. However, you see that? It almost gets like muddy. This is now starting to work rust that I wasn't able to access before. And I know you're looking at this and probably going, oh my God, that's gonna take forever. You're never gonna remove all that. The plan is not to remove it all. The plan is to get it loose and remove as much as we can. And wipe it away and just keep going. And there we go. And then you wipe it with another rag. You keep it damp, but not soaked. And that's it. Believe it or not, what's gonna happen is this is gonna all convert. It's gonna change completely black. And then we're gonna actually be able to paint on this. So even though it looks all nasty, it doesn't matter. It's still a strong surface for us. And also in other areas that are kind of hard to reach, like back here on this side, I wasn't able to get it, and even here, you can take a wire brush, get into those areas you weren't able to get, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's the whole idea is just make it better than it was. If we were trying to remove every single speck here, that would be crazy. It wouldn't be doable, and it's not realistic, and it's not even necessary, believe it or not. All right, so I'm just gonna go around the whole car, get this thing all moist, wipe it all down, work away the areas that I feel that need to be worked on. And when this is all done, I'll show you what it looks like. You wait 24 to 72 hours, and you'll see exactly what happens once this stuff does its magic. So it's been 24 hours and Ospho has done his job. Check this out. Look how nice and silver this is. And all the remaining areas where we had deep rust have now been converted into a paintable surface where it's nice and black. So this is all ready to go. This is great. At the same time, I spent the time of going inside, sanding the rest of the car inside, using a whole variety of tools to do this. Same time, I had to use a combo I don't recommend using. It's using a grinder with a wire brush attachment. Now this is incredibly dangerous, so I don't recommend doing it, but if you get stuck, it does work in a pinch. Since I'm not sandblasting, this made it really easy to finish it. So I got all that done. I applied the Ospho on the inside just to get all finished. And the reason I did it all, because I want to do it all as one system. Get all my Ospho done, get all my grinding and stuff, and then move on to the next stage. So now we're ready to start painting, and the next process is putting on our Weld-Thru Primer. And Weld-Thru Primer is basically used for any areas where there's going to be spot welds, so on this channel here and on the side. But before doing that, you can't actually just go and start doing it. It might sound counterintuitive, but you actually have to take a grinding stone and start removing the Ospho from any area you're going to be essentially welding. The reason you're doing this is because you're not going to get a good weld. There's just not going to be good conductivity, so you have to remove this. So I removed that all in the side channels and all in the front and back channels. Now we're ready to go. And we're going to be treating this whole roof soon, but right now we're just going to focus on the channels. The next thing we got to do is bring down the acidity. So we got to take some lacquer thinner, just splash it onto a rag. This is going to ensure that our paint adheres as good as possible. You just take it, run it through the channels for now. Basically go all around the car. So now we're almost ready to paint, but the most important thing is always have your surface ready for painting. So I'm gonna use this. This is our Eastwood pre-painting prep. We always use this on all our surfaces prior to painting. It's a wax and grease remover. It's just so easy as spraying it on and wiping it down. So we'll do this all the way around and we'll get ready to paint. So now that the surfaces are all prepped, it's time to apply our Weld-Thru Primer. Now the reason for Weld-Thru Primer is basically you have two pieces of metal sandwiched together, they're still gonna rot from the inside, and which is what happens. So two pieces of metal, moisture gets in and it rots. So what you wanna do is you wanna protect it as best as possible. So we're gonna do it with this. So this is the U-POL Copper Weld number 2. I like to use it, this is good stuff. Now my whole reasoning for this, I have a whole scientific explanation why I use copper over zinc in our floor pan videos. So yeah, this is not the cheap stuff, this is expensive, but I think it's worth spending the money in your materials. If you're doing all the work yourself, you're already saving a lot of money. So let's just apply this. Basically anywhere we're gonna be welding. Right? Just go all the way around the car, twice. All right, so we're just about to start painting. We've already taken the time to take our lacquer thinner and go around the whole car and make sure the acidity has been brought down. And then at the same time, take our Eastwood pre-painting prep, go around that, make sure our surface is clean, and now we're pretty much ready to paint. So the next step is the epoxy itself. This is our Spray Max 2K Epoxy Primer. What we got is an aerosol. And a lot of people are like, whoa, an aerosol, there's no such thing as epoxy aerosol because there's a two-part system, which is true. There's a resin and a hardener in this, but this is not together. After you're shaking it, you gotta take the cap off. You basically got this red tab over here. Take this out, and this is a two-part system, so you have to mix it manually. So if you look on the bottom here, that's the mixing valve. So what you do is you gotta take this, after you've shaken it, put it underneath like this, and then just, what this does is it mixes the two properties together. So once that's been done, then you gotta shake it for another 2 minutes. The only thing I don't like about this, it doesn't make a sound or anything because you have no idea if it's mixed properly, so I actually hold it in when I shake it. So now it's all mixed up. It's been 2 minutes, now it's ready to go. Let's go put this stuff on. All right, for this full face mask, a lot of ventilation. You do not want to get this in your body. Epoxy is nasty stuff. Wow, I can't believe this is just primer. Very surprised of how good this quality is. I gotta tell you, that can, it's good. Now I've already cleaned these. I just used some compressed air, got all the dust off, took some Eastwood pre-painting prep, cleaned it all off. So our surface is ready to go. Last thing I wanna do is, just to make this look good, I'm gonna be using this. This is Eastwood Chassis Black. It's just a satin finish. It's a nice sheen for this. You know, it's not sticking out too much, it's not a gloss, and it's not matte, so it doesn't look like primer. It's kind of like in between. Plus, the sheen makes it really easy to clean. If it was just matte, if I leave the primer on, it's gonna be tough to clean this. Dirt's really gonna stick to it, because that's what primer's for. So the chassis black has done its thing, and check it out, it looks great. The first coat looks really, really good. I'm really pleased. It is still a little rough to the touch because what I have to do now is do a light sanding over this. I didn't want to do it over the epoxy, but rather the first coat of paint, and then I can coat it again, and then it'll be the finished coat. But prior to doing that, there's actually some repair work I want to do. And a lot of people are like, well, why did you paint first? Because I'm going to be doing some laminating of metal, and I want this as protected as possible. So it's protected, we can take off paint where we got to work. So we're going to be doing some repairs here, some braces, and we're actually even going to be adding some seatbelt anchors in the posts over here. So we're going to be adding a 3-point system. So this is the perfect time to do it, so I'll be doing that. So this is our roof skin. We took this and we scuffed it up. We didn't remove the coating because in this case, it's actually not necessary to do it. So I just used a random orbital sander. The electrostatic coating is actually really good. It's actually a lot better quality than people think. It's the lacquer-based coating that people have had problems with. So I just scuffed this up with a 120 grit and got it ready for paint. Cleaned up with the Eastwood pre-painting prep, and I was ready to go. And then I just started spraying my epoxy, and that turned out okay. So I did the corners really well, and the corners, the edges did really well, which is where the bracing is, so that's the important part. If you look outside, it actually snowed yesterday, so That's how quickly things change. We can't do any big painting anymore. This is not a heated garage. I'm not gonna spend a huge amount of time here. I'm not doing any big painting projects, just little touch-ups here and there, but the paint has to stay a certain temperature, otherwise it's gonna mess up. You're gonna ruin all your work. It's not gonna be worth it. So that's what we're gonna do. But now we're gonna start working this. Gonna start doing our structure. Basically all I wanna do here, I wanna add some supports, add some metal pieces, laminate together, and get this all kind of buttoned up. Just kind of strengthen it up. And all this really entails is taking some metal, repairing the existing structure that has damage, and then taking some pieces of metal, laminating them across the cross beams, and strengthening those up. And this will ensure that this is as safe as possible. And then for the seat belts, we can actually add in a bracket where it allows us to do the 3-point system. And then once this is all done, we can paint it again and get it back looking to the shape it's supposed to be. So then it was just about starting on the roof. I got my measurements and taped off the areas just so I know where to spray. Now these panels do not come prepped for the spot welds, so you have to drill your own spot weld holes. And this is really time consuming and labor intensive, but you can pretty much do whatever you want and as close as you like. So we are putting the holes fairly close to what they were factory, but just slightly tighter just to have a stronger fit than it was there before. And we started doing that with a combination of the belt sander and the drill with an attachment. Now this attachment actually worked really well. It's a nice quiet way of doing it. You don't need a compressor, and it does pretty much short work of the paint here, so it does a great job. The belt sander's better at getting in little accurate areas where you can't get the wire reel. It's nice to have the belt sander, but that requires a compressor. Flipping the roof skin over, the drill really didn't do quite a good job here because there were shards of metal left from the drill. I just wasn't able to use the drill like on the other side, so this is where having that mini belt sander really comes into play. But what really helped was actually switching to the SCT. After doing the holes with the belt sander, I took the SCT and just ran around, and this thing just made short work of stripping this. Such a quick way of doing it. I know it's probably not the right tool for the job, but it worked excellent in this case. So then it was just about cleaning up the surface and putting on the Weld-Thru Primer, just getting it ready for welding. And we just went all the way around the perimeter of this panel. Now I know people might do this between different coats. I think the most important part is just to do it. If you want a professional feel, do it between every coat even if you want to. It's totally up to you. Now this is not about removing the paint, it's just making it as smooth as possible so that when the paint goes on, it's a really nice finish. So then it was just a case of putting on the paint, so we threw on our chassis black in all the areas that are not going to be accessible once the roof skin is on. So we put it on, this is just an extra layer of protection all around the perimeter and the Big X. And all the areas that are exposed, we just left the primer on because I'm not exactly sure what color is going to go here yet, so we just left the primer, and we can always add more primer and paint in the future. The whole idea is just to do the areas that are not accessible. Give this thing as much protection as possible. Now this may seem like overkill considering the roof just was bare metal before. However, this will last absolutely forever and it will ensure that I never have to do this again. So the roof skin's ready to go. We're almost ready to drop this thing. All we gotta do is put some epoxy on here, do some paint touch-ups, get this ready to go, and then drop this thing on. I was ready to do this, and then I was gonna tackle some of the rear window channel, and then really I got started thinking. And I was looking at the inner support and that rear structure, and it's just, I know there's been a lot of water damage over time here. I've worked really hard on this car so far. You know, I'm not a professional, I'm just doing this pretty much for the first time. And this is my 35th day on here, and I've really just started going above and beyond on a lot of things because I know how much work it is to do this. And the idea of ripping all this open one day and doing something again just really bothers me. And I think that's what's gonna happen. If I don't tackle this inner structure from the outside, that's what's gonna happen. This piece is not even replaceable. It's really starting to bother me knowing that I've put all this work in and I can't even see the other side or treat it. Like, what's the point of doing all this work if the other side is just exposed and rotting away? Just like the roof, I wasn't gonna take that off. You know, I've never done that before. This is my first time. I was so intimidated doing it. I took it off and I feel so great knowing that this is protected now. I got the same problem with this now behind me. I know that this inner structure is rusting away. It's gonna keep doing it. 10, 15, 20 years from now, I might have some holes and I have to do some replacements. Same with the quarter panel. I know it's rotting away right here. I'm not a seasoned vet, but I know how long it took me to get this car and how rare they are. You know, having these, it takes a certain amount of respect and dignity. This is history behind me. You're the keeper of history, as my good friend Ross with his Nova told me.
And then you're the keeper of history as well.
Keeper of history, absolutely. Now earlier this year, he actually let me drive his Nova for the first time ever. I'd never driven one at that point, and I absolutely fell in love with the car. I was so happy to drive this thing, and he's right about that, you know? Holy shit, I'm driving Nova.
You're driving a Nova.
And yes, these cars are made to have fun.
Let's see what happens here.
That's a rush, man. That's awesome, dude. And as fun as these vehicles are, and that's what they're created for, I think more an important note is to actually preserve them, do everything we can to keep them around as long as possible. So I think we have to go the extra step and do everything we can to save this thing. And I'm not quite sure how to do that right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stop everything, kind of go through my options and see what I could do and make a game plan for moving forward, because I can't put a roof on this thing the way it is right now. I'm not happy with the structure. I need to find a way to protect this, and we'll see what it is. Maybe I'll have options, or maybe I'm just gonna move forward. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna stop everything, or figure it out. So it's been several weeks since we've been on this job, and everything has changed. We ended up removing the sails and finding a lot of hidden rust, and we started tackling that. And then we found that the rear dashboard, the upper deck filler, was also rusty, so we removed that. The channels were messed up. We had to manufacture new channels, so much different work. So we began by revisiting the window channels on the roof. I took the time to actually remove these things, and these were a real pain in the ass, but they did come out, and it exposed a hell of a lot of rust underneath. So I'm really glad we were able to get these out, clean them out, and have them ready to go. There was also a little bit of repair work we had to do because there was holes in the channels. So then it was just about getting the panels ready for paint. Other than just treating rust, what it does, it opens you up to other opportunities to improve the car. So I welded on these seatbelt anchors, and now we have 3-point belts, front and back. We had to tackle this from a completely different perspective. So that was a massive job, but it's all done and everything looks great now. And don't worry, that's coming up in our next video, so you'll be able to see that, because that's a job. If you're doing a roof like this, it's really worth doing all this stuff, so I'm glad we did it. Another thing that happened was this. I'm really not sure what to say in this situation. It's not something I was planning to do, but obviously something's wrong. If you look at my face, you'll notice that my eye is really messed up. I was grinding, and despite wearing some safety glasses, a shard of metal went off the grinder and went into my eye. And I didn't think of it much at the time. Went to check it, got the piece out, and it was still kind of bothering me. And after a couple of days, it just got worse, worse, worse. Went to the hospital, and they tried to take it out, and they couldn't. So now I need emergency surgery. So I ended up going to the hospital, and they couldn't take the piece of metal out. That was all there all night. They tried everything, they couldn't get it out. So I was sent to a specialist, and after a while, the specialist was finally able to remove it. So real close call. I got double vision right now. My eye looks freaking horrible right now, but it's there. I'm so fortunate, and just goes to show you accidents happen. You know, I was wearing goggles and it still went underneath and in, so it's just crazy. So I usually wear this thing, and you sure as hell know that every time I'm using a grinder from now on, I'm using this damn mask, because it's not worth stuff like this happening. It's just not worth it. Anyways, but this mask is like 250 bucks. This is really expensive. So I know it's out of the price range for a lot of people. I was just given this, but what I found is this. This guy is 40 bucks. This is a full face mask, and it's a really good coverage. It's got great coverage because it covers your whole face. There's no chance of anything going in your eyes, and it's got these. The thing is, these didn't come with it. It came with these pathetic things. So these are P100 filters. But let's compare the filter from the $250 mask. Check this out. Quite the difference. I wouldn't trust my life on this thing. Like, what is this? It's garbage. So what we did, I bought some 3M filters, because your life, you only get one, you gotta protect it. I think doing this combination is really, really worth it. So altogether, this is about 100 bucks now. But honestly, Anytime you're grinding, I so recommend this. I end up getting bronchitis, like welder's bronchitis, from welding with flux core wire, doing my floor pans. So now I wear a mask when I do that too. I'm just really protecting my lungs now. You know, you blow your nose and it's just pure black death. I'm not gonna have that happen anymore. I don't think that's worth it. That's really old school. So I'm gonna avoid that by wearing masks. But anyways, let's talk about this car. So check it out, she's all ready to go. Not only did we treat this whole top part, but we did everything down here as well. So now this whole thing, this whole system is done. It's all layers. All this stuff back here is done. I'm so happy that we did this. This was a hell of a lot of work. It was another 2 weeks of work, but it's so worth it because we found so much rust. Everything's protected in and out. Every corner of this car is gonna be protected. There's not gonna be any rust. And I'm super happy, like this is awesome. So now we have to work backwards, put this roof on, get this bad boy all finished up. There it is. It all fits. Would you look at that? Everything fits. I am super friggin' pleased. It's time to weld this thing on, and today I got a little bit of help.
Wow, look at that. It's coming together.
What do you think, huh?
That's so cool. Oh my God. Oh, 1 second, the Shih Tzu.
We'll get her.
What? Wanna come? That's pretty cool.
That's the first time you see it with a roof on.
That is pretty freaking cool.
So right now I've just been taking stuff off, but look, now it's on. We got our sails, we got this, everything lines up. So now we have to weld it on. So you're gonna be welding here.
Oh God, okay.
So you're gonna be welding, plunge welding, basically rosette weld. So I'll show you how and we'll go from there. Are you cold?
It's freezing in here.
Yipper, that's how we work. All right, you're gonna wear this.
Ah, little butchers. Ow.
All right, that's that. just in case. I usually just get burned on my body, but I'll spare you from that.
I don't want to end up in the hospital like you with a broken eyeball. Scared.
All right, so we're gonna attach this thing.
Why?
And then we're gonna turn this on. I already got the settings down. One of my problems I had before was that I was using 2 pieces of crap, 1 good piece of metal, 1 crappy piece of metal, and everything would just burn right through. So doing the back was actually awesome. This is the first time I've been able to weld properly with new metal. So here it's all new metal, so
okay.
You shouldn't have much of an issue. Okay, so this is gonna go on your head.
Ugh.
I don't know if you're able to put, does it fit on your head? Okay.
Where? I can't see.
Yeah, you won't be able to see anything. Okay, so what you gotta do is you gotta climb on here. Keep it up. There you go. Okay, and now you need different, those gloves, they'll just melt right to your fingers. So we can't have that. So put these on.
They have holes in them.
I know, but it's good enough.
What do you mean it's good enough?
Safety standards are pretty low in this place. I know, it's nice and warm in here. Nothing like the feeling of being alive. Okay, so you want to be about that far away. And the trick is you put it on your arm like this, or you can hold it like, it's up to you how you do it. And the trick is you want it this far away. You don't want to move it away or closer. It always, what you're gonna do is just hold it and do a little short bead. So you hold it for about 2 seconds. Just like 1, 2, that's it. You know what I mean? Let the tool do the work. You can even hold it at one spot if you want.
Can I squeeze it?
Yeah, you're gonna have to squeeze it. So first thing is don't press until the mask is down. Find your spot first. Don't be scared, Jess. We all had to do it once, first time. Okay, so what you're gonna do is don't go yet. I'll put my glasses on just in case. I have to turn around when you do it.
So I'm not gonna burn?
No. Okay, and all right, and go. Yeah.
I'm too scared.
No, don't be scared, Jess, it's easy.
too scared.
Put your mask down. Don't press. Let's start here, okay? Put the other arm, plant yourself, okay? Right there. You don't even have to move, okay? You're just gonna press the thing.
No, I'm too scared.
It's not gonna do anything to you, okay? I swear.
It's stuck. No, I can't do it. It's too scary. I'm sorry. No.
That's what.
I'm sorry. It's frightening.
Come on, you can do it. I believe in you, baby. It won't hurt you, I swear. Well, try it again.
I feel like I'm gonna electrocute myself.
Well, no, you're electrocuting the car. You're not electrocuting yourself.
That's frightening.
No, you can't electrocute
Such a
yourself.
crazy concept.
Well, try it again. Just
One last time.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't have all day to be petrified like this. No, I can't do it, Max. I'm sorry.
Well, are you scared?
I'm too scared.
Baby, you just gotta do it. Don't think about it. We'll try one more time. I just want you to try it. I'm not saying you.
Oh, I'm trying.
You know, you have to not worry about the fear, okay?
Right
Here.
here.
Hold right here. This one, there you go. Okay, there you go, perfect. Look at that. Whoa, that's a perfect spot weld.
No, it's not.
It's pretty damn good. You see, you did it.
I did it.
Woo!
Okay,
You wanna try another one?
I'll try again.
I thought so, okay. Now we're gonna try that one, okay? Put somewhere there. Okay. Okay. There we go. Not freaking bad. See, perfect settings, you didn't move, it's good. I'm really happy, good job. Yay.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You tried it, that's what's important, right? Look, you see you overcame your fear. And now I'm
If
gonna,
I can do it, anybody can do
I'm
it.
gonna freeze my ass off now and finish this. There you have it, a job well done. Well, at least finished, maybe not well done, but it's finished. Who would have thought that somebody who's never done this would be able to do this? This is crazy. I can't believe I pulled this thing off, did all the rust, changed all this stuff, put a new roof on. It's good to go. Just shows you no one could do it. Super proud of this. This is a huge job, massive undertaking. So at the same time, if you watch this, you probably want to watch our other video. Our next video is how we did the window channels, the sails, and all that stuff, because there's a lot of detail in that to do all that stuff. If you're doing this, you really want to do that as well. It's just good to do it all. I'm just super glad I did this. I know all the rest has been taken care of. I still have a lot of work to do. I'm going to do all the final touches before I do the body work, so we will get back to this later on in the year. However, for now, she's done for now. Another thing is, a lot of people might be saying, Max, what the hell? You spent so much time working on this car, doing the outer structure and all this stuff, but the inside of the inner structure, it's all rusty. You didn't do anything there. That's right, I didn't, because I do have a trick, and it's this right here. This is the Eastwood internal frame coating. This is what we're gonna be using inside all the inner structure. This is an amazing product. It just coats the inside and really gives you much more life, because there's not much you can do inside the inner structure. But I'm not going to be doing that right now because it's way too cold. It's freezing outside right now. So we're going to be doing this when we're going to be doing the quarter panels, because we have inner frame structure that we have availability to as well. So we're going to do it all in one time. So we're just going to wait till it gets a little warmer. You don't want to use this when it's cold, but this is a solution. Basically, you have this straw, you put it in, and you shoot the inside of the inner structure. We're going to do everything. We're going to do our roof over here, we're going to do the structure behind us, we're going to do the rocker panels. So anywhere we can't access the inside of any sort of frame or structure, we use this stuff. It's a good solution. We're really pleased how everything performed. You know, I really love the welder. I'm really happy with how well the welder did. I just got it tuned the way it's supposed to be now. I added a 10-pound spool inside there instead of 2-pound, and then there's no jerkiness, it's just coming out nice consistently. So now the beads are good. So it's really nice to have a good weld. New sheet metal, it just works so much better. So now I know all the problems I went through before was because of bad sheet metal and bad welder. But the welder I have now, I'm loving it. It's really cool. At the same time, what I always do is I have this list of stuff that I've accomplished. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in all the things we did, everything we learned, so I can check at the end of this process how much stuff I learned. So I'll check you guys out in the next video.